Welcome, everyone. And today you are in for a special treat, and this is perfect for the beginning of the new year. Now, one thing that we all know is that with LinkedIn, that a lot of times we're looking for that magic formula. So, for example, we're looking to optimize our profile and have engagement strategies and content strategies, and those are all good. But then we still feel stuck, and we still feel that despite the best intentions and what we think are the right moves, we're still not rocking it on LinkedIn. And a lot of times it's because we're the ones keeping ourselves stuck. And the good news is that that means that we're the ones who can actually change that. So we are so honored to be joined here by Brooke Bownes, who is an accredited trauma coach, therapist, #1 best-selling author, who helps ambitious people basically get unstuck in life and in their careers. And we're going to be learning a lot that's going to help us overall holistically. And we're also going to be saying, okay, how can we apply this knowledge specifically to LinkedIn? So Brooke, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to having a conversation. We've had quite a few chats. I'm looking forward to having the conversation today.
Yes, thank you. And by the way, for everyone, please feel free to put some comments, any comments or hellos in the chat section. Shaq is already saying hello to us, and thank you so much. And it looks like he already has some popcorn. So thank you for that. So, and also everyone, we do have Brooke's contact information in the description of this as well. So I think you're going to find after hearing her that you're going to want to learn more, and I want to make sure you have that opportunity. All right. So let's talk about self-doubt and what does that look like in life, and then what does that look like specifically on LinkedIn?
Well, often when we want to go and do something, we think, oh yeah, I want to do this and do that. Then these thoughts all come popping up into our heads. What if I fail? I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too tall. I'm too short. Whatever it is that pops up. And it stops us from actually doing these things. And the way I work is we need to think about ourselves in like kind of two parts. We've got our adult selves, that is the logical part that wants to do all these things, but we've also got our inner child. Now that inner child is the one who's going, no, 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 that's too scary. And if our inner child feels scared or not sure of something, they will create something like self-doubt to come up to protect the inner child from, so they don't have to do it, because they have memories of like, okay, when we tried to do something similar when we were younger, it didn't work out so well, so I don't want to go and do it now. And I do a lot of thing called internal family systems, where it's talking about parts. So a part will come up and say, okay, to distract us in some way, like self-doubt, self-sabotage,
Yeah.
procrastination, anxiety, all these things, they are parts that will come up to let us know, let our adult self know that something isn't quite right. And when we have self-doubt come up, it's often because we've tried to do something before in the past that may be similar and it didn't work out, and our inner child is going, nope, not playing that game again. I don't want to do that because last time it felt awful. So we're not going to go and do this thing, even though logically we know we've got the skills, the knowledge, we can do them. If our inner child is going, nope, not having it, we will stop ourselves from doing it.
Right. And now you mentioned inner child, and I think some people who are not familiar with that term might feel a little scared about that. Can you explain that more? And also, just a little side note, I'm having a weird thing with my screen where it looks like I'm in the background and in the foreground. So we can all still see you, Brooke, but just to let you know, for those of you seeing this live stream, I'm not trying to be vain by showing two of me. I really want this to be focused on Brooke Bownes, and I might actually just do this. So, okay, okay, there we go. I know you can't see it, but my inner child is like, you're looking a little braggy here now. Okay, so tell me about the inner. Okay, so tell me about the this inner child. Like, tell us more about this and why we shouldn't necessarily be scared by this term.
Yeah, it's not a scary term. It's just kind of a way of looking at things, because we often hear people say, I'm a procrastinator or I'm a perfectionist, whereas we aren't actually. It's just our inner child letting us know. It's our body saying to us, something isn't quite right here. We need to work on it. And our inner child is kind of letting us know the things that we need to work on and where we need to heal. And I heard a great phrase the other day saying hysteria comes from the history, where it means that if you're triggered by something, it's because there's a history of it somewhere, even if you don't know, because often if things happen in our childhood, we don't always remember it in our minds, but our bodies will remember it and will keep the score. I mean, there's a book called, The Body Keeps the Score, and our bodies remember everything. So basically, our inner child is our body's way of remembering everything that's gone on. So when something happens, so like for example, if both you and I saw a spider and you're scared of spiders because when you was a child, your mother went, ah, spider. And so you went, ah, spider, but you don't know why. But it's because it was a taught behavior, whereas my parents would have gone, oh yeah, there's a spider. And so I go,
Yeah.
okay, there's a spider. So it's our body's way of letting us know there's something we can work on, something we can do. So actually it's nothing to be scared of. It's actually something to celebrate, because when these things come up, it's letting us know, okay, well, I need to work on that. I need to get a bit more curious. Where's that story come from? Where's that belief come from? Why am I thinking that way? What's stopping me from doing what I really want to
Right.
do?
Okay. So let's look at LinkedIn, for example, and let's say, and I'm going to share something that I hear a lot from with my clients as an example, where they look at, they know they need to make comments in the news feed, and they're scared to make comments. Okay, they're like, and the things that I hear, for example, are, what are other people going to think? Am I going to be wasting people's time? Stuff like that. So, what would their inner child be saying?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I mean, now
Mm,
my inner child would be like, let's go, let's do it, because we can't change what other people think. But yeah, I used to do that. I used to be constantly worried, because if we grow up hearing from, well-meaning parents, no, this isn't to blame any adults or anything, but they often say it because they heard it from their parents. Oh, you
mhm.
can't do that. What will people think? So we grow up with, oh, we can't do what we want to do because other people might think this of us or that of us. And it's a safety mechanism, because like when we were around in the caveman times, if you were kicked out of the tribe, that meant you'd probably die or starve to death.
Right.
So you want to be able to stay popular in a way, and our brain is still set up that way. But what we now need to realize is that people are going to think whatever they think, and they'll think it from their experiences from the world. Now, I may put a comment out, and somebody like you would say, oh my goodness, that's an amazing comment, Brooke, thank you. And somebody else might think, oh no, you're being too arrogant, you're being a show off.
Mm,
But that doesn't mean to say either you or the other person is right. It's just how you felt about the comment. And it's understanding that people are going to feel different things because of how they feel about themselves as well. And it's often how they feel about themselves that they're projecting, not actually anything about your comment as such.
right. Gotcha. And by the way, I do want to say we have a few hellos here, so thank you everyone for saying hello here, and thank you for joining us. I see a lot of familiar faces, and it's very very nice. Okay, so we know we're no longer a child; we're an adult. Should we just tell ourselves this as we're trying to get through our LinkedIn and other tasks today? What do we
Well,
do?
the way I like to work is, if you can imagine that you've got your inner child sat beside you. So if you've got like a teddy bear or a picture of you when you were younger, what would you say if you had a little 5-year-old or 6-year-old who's going, I'm not too sure about doing this. That looks kind of scary. You wouldn't
Mhm.
go, just do it and forget about it. Because you'd be go, okay, what's scaring you about it? How can I help you? What do you need? Do you need me to like hold your hand and go with you?
Mm,
And it's reassuring your inner child that it's okay, and it's taking those baby steps. So if you see somebody who's really, smashing it on LinkedIn, posting every day, getting hundreds and thousands of comments, that sort of thing, you're thinking, oh, I can't possibly do that. It's taking it back to like the baby steps. Could you do one post a week? And you're not going to get tons
right.
of comments straight away because you're new to it. When anybody starts new, that person that looks like they're smashing it and got hundreds of comments, they're probably doing it for a long while. And when they started, they probably only had their best friend and their mum comment on it as
Mm-hmm.
well. So it's thinking about, okay, let's not compare ourselves to somebody that's been doing LinkedIn for a long, long time, and just take it in your own lane and just do what you need to do for what's workable for you. Because it's so much better to do one post a week than think, right, I'm going to do seven
Yeah.
posts a week, and then like the next week you don't do anything because you're so frazzled because it was too much for your nervous system.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very you always have to do things that are sustainable for sure. Um, I know for myself, and I'll just kind of like be a little bit vulnerable out there. And by the way, I have like amazing parents. I really lucked out in the whole parents department. And because I hear stories. I did grow up in a very achievement oriented family. So when I see someone who has 100,000 followers and all of that, I feel like a loser, and I have to tell myself, no. You're not. It's okay, just because you're not number one or you didn't buy those followers or whatever it is, just because you're not number one in that particular metric, it doesn't affect your self worth. But it's a conversation that every single day I have to have with myself. So that's the inner child that I'm constantly struggling with personally. In case there's anyone watching who is in
Yeah.
a similar boat,
And it's
it's
not
something that I deal with too.
necessarily, like I said, it's not about blaming the parents because a lot of my clients have lovely parents, but it could be something that an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or a teacher said as a throwaway comment. Maybe one sentence. In my book, I talk about a client who had a teacher that said to her, "You're rubbish at math."
Oh,
And threw the board rubber at her. This is back in the 70s when teachers did that. And that was it.
yeah.
She was convinced for the next like 43 years that she was no good at maths until she came to work with me. Now, she had great parents, but that one teacher saying that one thing to
Yeah.
her, because when we're younger, when we hear things, we haven't got that critical faculty to work out, oh, are they just having a bad day? That teacher could have like had a argument with their partner, tripped over the cat, had a flat tire, had money worries, maybe worried about losing their job. But as children, we don't see that. We hear what adults say and take that as the truth. And we often carry these things around with and don't realize that that's where it's come from. And that's the work I do. I dig deeper and find out where the story actually originates from. I've had clients come to me and say, I'm stupid. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, what made you say that? Well, because my Aunt Dorothy said that my sister was a clever one. And because when you're little, if you hear your sister's clever, you automatically think, well, I must be the dumb one or the stupid one. And I've said, well, how about having two clever children in the family? Sure, well, I never thought of that because she'd got that thinking as a child because that's
Yeah.
how children think. And she never thought about upgrading her belief system. And we don't. We upgrade our computers regularly, but we don't upgrade our own belief system. A lot of us are still running on our 6, 7-year-old belief system. Would you let your a 7-year-old run your bank account? Would you let a 7-year-old drive you around? No, you wouldn't. But we let our 7-year-old self run us and drive us in our thought process and our belief systems because
Yes.
we don't upgrade them.
That is so interesting. And by the way, we have a few people who are completely on board with everything that you're saying in terms of like, I feel exactly the same way. And I'll also say I received a comment once from someone when I was younger that I was the smart one and my sister was the pretty one. Okay. So guess how long it took me to start a YouTube channel? Forever, and I know that's not LinkedIn, but it could also be, people who are scared to be on video because they heard something from someone that they're not a supermodel and or what have you, and it was like, you're so right, it doesn't have to be parents, it could be anyone, it could
And
be
that comment
anyone.
about you being a smart one, they probably thought they were complimenting you because they said you were smart and your sister was pretty, thinking they were complimenting both of you. But
Yeah.
that I'm smart, so therefore, if I'm smart, I should have 100,000 followers too. So that could tie back into that. I'm not saying it has, because obviously I would have to like work with you a bit more to find that out.
I need
But it
help.
would probably, yeah,
No,
it
go
was saying it
ahead.
in that way. Yes, we can talk about that more later. But I mean, it's lovely that people comment. I can't see the comments, so but yeah,
Yeah.
um, it's good that people are understanding this and realizing that there is something that they can do about it. It's getting my greatest thing is saying to my clients, get curious when something comes up. So, for example, if you think, right, if you're at the weekend and you think, right, Monday morning, I'm going to post this post, and then come Monday morning, think, I can't. notice what thoughts you're having, what's coming up, what you're saying to yourself, because that will give you clues as to what you believe about yourself. And then ask yourself that question, is that thought true? Or is it just a thought that I've been carrying around with me since I was 6, 7 years old?
Yeah. Well, let me read some of the comments. So we have Angela Williamson says she agrees with in terms of the whole achievement thing, right? And then Sharif says, I feel the same sometimes. I feel like I'm a loser as I do not have thousands of followers. Then someone mentions they like my content and I feel confident again. And then, oh gosh, I recognize you, but I'm not recognizing the name, the username, which is FAIMCC. I am so sorry. I'm like blanking out here. But it says, I really like to reverse the system and actively comment or thank people when they wrote something I enjoy because lots don't give me more than a passing like. Give, 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 and you shall receive. So what I like, what he just said is, I'm not it's like I'm not receiving the reinforcements that I would really hope to get, but at the very least, I can put it out there, which I think is lovely. So just to give you some idea, and Joanne, by the way, says she's sorry for being late. She's normally the very first person to comment on things. So Joanne, it's totally fine. I'm glad that you're doing okay. I was worried about you, that you weren't the first one on, so you're okay. All right, since you can't see the comments, I want to make sure that I can read some of those to you.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just understanding that when we understand that we've got a little inner child kind of working us, and I often liken it to, I like to describe it to my clients, our inner child is a bit like a puppet master. When your inner child is happy and confident, like if you drive a car and I said to you, can you just drive to the store and get some milk? You'll go, okay, sure. Your body won't change. You'll be like, oh yeah, no problem. But if I said something to you like, okay, you need to get 100,000 followers, we'll use that as an example, by tomorrow, or else you aren't going to be that smart girl, you'd be like, your shoulders will tense up, your body would react because your inner child would be pulling those puppet strings going, no, we can't do that. You can't do that. That's too much. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel confident enough. So it's understanding that when we feel that way, we need to check in with our inner child and find out what's going on and why our inner child doesn't feel great about things. I've done a lot of work with my own inner child. I used to be so scared. I would have never come on something like this 15 years ago. You wouldn't have seen me for dust, but now I absolutely love it, and so does my inner child. We're both on board with it, and this is where we get this conflict, because I often hear people say, I know I want to do this, but for something stopping me, and they go like this, and it's your body's conflicting because your logical mind is going yeah, and your body's going no. So you're fighting yourself. But once you're actually in alignment and your mind is in alignment with your body, so your adult you and your inner child are in alignment, you can then go and do the things that you really want to do because your inner child will be on board with it and will happily let you dance around with the puppet strings as such.
Awesome. And one thing you also mentioned in a previous conversation that we had is that, when that self-doubt surfaces, to not shove it away, but to get comfortable with it. So what happens if you were to try to shove it away? Because I would say that's probably our that's our instinct to do that.
Yeah.
If we were to try to shove it away, what would happen?
When you try to shove something away, it comes back, it keeps coming back even stronger. But if you actually say, okay, self-doubt has disappeared. Okay, and you can actually do this. You can grab an object or something and say, okay, pretend this is self-doubt. There, okay, self-doubt, why have you shown up today? And then just sit and be quiet for a moment, and you'll often hear the answer, well, I've showed up because your inner child is scared. If you actually go and do that thing, your inner child doesn't feel like she's good enough to do it, or she doesn't feel she's worthy enough or important enough or whatever it is. And it's understanding that to actually feel those emotions, because when we push things away, and I also liken it to, if you've got a 5-year-old around you and they're going, Brooke, and you just, shh, and try and quiet them down a bit with your hand, kind of push away, and suddenly they'll go, Brooke, and it's like, whoa, you have to do something, you have to notice it. So when you notice it to start with, it will seem a bit strange and it will feel uncomfortable. This work isn't a walk in the park. It feels really uncomfortable because we're so used to just burying our emotions, because, when we was younger, if we got upset, well-meaning parents and adults would go, oh, no, don't cry, don't cry. So we kind
Right.
of push those feelings down and think that's the thing that we should do. We're familiar with pushing things down or pushing them away, but we're not actually familiar with sitting there and feeling them. But when you do that, it's very powerful.
Yeah. I would say probably men even experience that even more because I feel like there's even more pressure for men to hold
Yeah,
their emotions in, and that can be even
absolutely. Yeah.
more of a challenge. I mean, it's already challenging enough for women as it is. So when you have, let's say, self doubt comes up, how should you view it as a bad thing, a good thing, a neutral thing? Like, tell me more about that.
It's just a feeling that's coming up, just like being happy, sad, joyful. It's our body giving us feedback. When you can look at it as it's our body giving us feedback, go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Right, this is a feedback I've got. I've got some self doubt coming up. Why is that coming up? Where is that coming from? Because when you start delving into it and looking into it, you'll find out where that self doubt comes from. And I'll give you a kind of a quick story. A lady I worked with years ago, she said, I don't know why, but I've got this big money block. She said, and my parents were absolutely amazing parents. They sound a bit like your parents. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I love to hear that.
Yeah.
She said, but I just can't earn the money I want to earn. I said, oh, okay. I said, so tell me about your childhood with money and things. She says, well, actually, she says, my parents were absolutely amazing around money. I'm like, loving this so far. She
Yeah.
said, every time I did a job around the house, she said they wanted me to learn the value of money. So they would pay me for the jobs I did around the house. I'm like, oh, that's great. I said,
Sounds,
that's
yeah.
brilliant. Good. And then she suddenly went, oh, I'm like, oh, are you okay? She goes, unless you asked me that question, I would never realise. She said, I've just realised what they paid me was pennies because I was only like little, because she was only like 4 or 5. So
Oh,
they paid her in pennies. So she said, my little me is like, I'm only worth pennies. I can't go for the big money. So we did some work to clear all that and get rid of those emotions and those thoughts. And then she went off to earn the money she wanted to earn, but she had really loving parents that thought they were doing the right thing by, getting her to do work, paying her for the work she did and things like that. But in her mind, she said, my parents would be devastated if they found out that that was the issue. I'm like, well, you don't need to let them know that. I said, they were doing the best they could with the
yeah.
situation they had and were well meaning. But
Yes.
as a child, we see it very black and white. Okay, I've been paid pennies, so therefore I'm only worth pennies. And that was her issue. And once we worked
Wow.
on that and cleared that, she went on and earned the money she wanted to earn, and it was
Yeah.
amazing.
And even though the example you shared isn't specifically LinkedIn, I hope a lot of people just heard this example because that can carry that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, so
fantastic.
like if you want to be on LinkedIn and you want to do videos or do LinkedIn lives like we're doing, but if somebody said to you as a child, oh no, you've got a face for radio kind of thing, an
Yeah.
uncle says it as a joke, or somebody thinking they're being funny, that can stop you from doing those videos and doing
Yeah.
those lives. Like you said, your example of somebody said that your sister was the pretty one and you're the smart one. So therefore, you probably thought that, okay, well, I haven't got a pretty face. So therefore, I can't do a YouTube channel. I can't do a LinkedIn live.
Right.
But nobody, if you go back to that person who said that to you, they would probably be absolutely devastated that you thought that way. But children see things very, very literally, whereas adults don't always mean them that way. So
Right.
it's not a case about blaming adults. It's just, okay, this is where I am right now. How am I feeling? And where's the story that I need to unravel and update so I can move on to be where I
Yeah.
want to be in my life?
And update it as often as you update software. That's like
Yeah.
brilliant. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you, or anything that's also that's important to add about self doubt and how it relates to our presence on LinkedIn?
Yeah. I mean, do it. Take that action. Take that one little step. But when you go to take that step, just notice how you feel. Because if your body's going, or if you go, oh, your body's going to your subconscious mind. There's danger about. So your subconscious mind suddenly goes into that fight, flight, or freeze, and you then end up procrastinating, having the self doubt, and all these things come up because you're not relaxed.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I ask you to do something that you're quite comfortable doing, your body doesn't react in any way. But the minute I ask you to do something that you're not a bit sure of, you will, even if it's a slight movement of going, oh,
Right.
your body detects that, and your subconscious mind detects that. Okay, right. And our subconscious mind is there to keep us safe. So it will automatically go into, okay, there's danger around, because you suddenly went,
Mm.
and
So
it's noticing those things. So notice how you feel before you go to do something, and then I think to yourself, okay, is that actually, am I in real danger? Is that what's going to happen if I do post that one post? Chances are, and I'm being really real here, chances are if you're new to LinkedIn and you post a post, there's not many people who are going to see it anyway,
no.
and you're not going to get a huge amount of, so if you do really mess it up, you can delete it as well if you want to, but actually the more practice you do, the better you get. Like with anything, when you first start, we're all terrible at doing things. If I look back about the videos I did years ago, I'd probably think, oh my goodness, what was I doing there? But this last year, as you know, I did 365 days of videos on LinkedIn, but I wouldn't have been able to do that straight off the bat. I've been doing videos for a few years to be able to take that and do that each day.
Exactly. And by the way, Angela Williamson also says that a few minutes ago she said that, that it's hitting home for her. And then she also said, what a thoughtful process to go back into past voices I heard and still remember. Because, and to your point, people don't recognize, like, when they say something that it can stick with you forever. And someone also,
Yeah.
Cindy Cole says, I feel like my parents supported me and never did anything to make me feel like I wasn't good enough for any situation, but I'm afraid to put myself out there on LinkedIn and other places. So I'm wondering, with Cindy saying that, if maybe there are some other influence, just to base Brooke on what you've been saying, if there's some
Yeah.
other influences beyond Cindy's parents who, again, said something off the cuff, or maybe there was some type of
It
childhood
could be
social situation
yeah. It
that,
could be a child in the playground that said something like, "Oh, your voice sounds funny."
yeah,
Yes, children do. Children say strange things to each other.
they
So
do.
you won't necessarily remember that as such at the moment, but your body will remember that. Like, okay, well, I can't do that because my voice is a bit funny, actually. Like, but
So,
oh, okay. So it's like I said, and I can't reiterate this enough. It's not about blaming anybody,
right.
yet your parents or any adults or anybody else. It's how you feel right now and what you can do about it. Because one of the best questions I love to get my clients to think about is, okay, what can I do right now? Instead of thinking, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that. What can I do? Can you put a small post out on Monday morning? Can you do a video even if you don't post it? Just get used to the feeling of like videoing yourself to get it ready to put out on LinkedIn. Because the great thing about doing videos as opposed to lives, if you mess it up, you can delete it and start again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because, like, right, I think every single time I do a live, I have a technical difficulty like I'm having right now, and so it's like, but you just learn it. But I would say 5 years ago, if this were happening right now, where I can see two of me and everyone else can, I would be mortified. And now
Yeah.
it's kind of like I'm in a little bit of a better place with it. But again, it takes a lot of work. The biggest thing that I got from this, I will say, only because you and I've had previous conversations, is being aware of your physical reactions, because you might not be aware that there's like this inner child that's trying to come out and say
Yeah.
something to you, but that, that can really speak to you. But again, like, everything you're sharing is so good. And I want to remind everyone that in the description, we do have Brooke's contact information. I really encourage you to get to know her, connect with her on LinkedIn. I know that she would absolutely. I'll speak for Brooke. She would absolutely love that, the people who follow this channel are all very nice. So I can assure you that you'll have that. And then Joanne even says, and even after all these years, I feel too introverted to post anything. Well, Joanne, I also hope that this gives you some things just to start thinking about. So,
And just to let
yeah,
Joanne know, I'm a huge introvert myself.
yeah.
So
And I am
it's like,
too. Yeah, go ahead.
and that sometimes it's a good thing because you can look at things in a different way, and we reflect on things. So You kind of just get curious. You don't have to put your picture out there on LinkedIn if you're an introvert. You can just put text out there or a nice picture that your face isn't in if you want to. So there's different ways of doing it. Think about it. Go by stage. Think about, okay, I'm going to put a sentence out there as a post. Okay, how's my body reacting to that? Oh, well, that's okay. That feels good. That doesn't react. Okay, I'm going to put a nice picture of the. We've had a lot of snow recently. A nice snow picture.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel good with that. I'm going to put a picture of myself up there. Okay, no, we won't do that just yet. We'll just do the text with a nice picture of nature or snow or my cat or my dog or whatever, and then just take
baby
those,
steps.
take baby tiny steps, because those tiny steps add up to bigger steps. But it's taking those little steps, but noticing how your body feels along the way. That's the key to it.
Yes, definitely. And I will say also, when there are people who can encourage you, that also helps too. For example, Donnie just encouraged Joanne to go for it. But again, there's little steps are helpful. And even when I work with clients, instead of, I used to deliver a beautiful 25-page single-spaced strategy. It's like, good luck, do all of it. And now it's more like, okay, let's work together. I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to do things one by one.
Yeah.
And I don't think I realized at the time how valuable that was in light of everything that you're sharing. I knew
Because
that hand holding was better, but this is, it all comes together. I mean, it really does. So, all
Because what you're
right.
actually doing is you're holding their inner child's hand and saying, it's okay,
Yeah.
we've got you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, anyway, thank you so, so much for sharing your expertise with us. I know we had quite a few comments, and Cindy wrote, I just realized I didn't implode when I posted that comment and Brooke read it. See, there you go, Cindy. If you could, and you know what?
Yeah, she's still here to tell the tale.
And the fact, Cindy, that you shared something very vulnerable in a live stream, if you can do that, you can write a regular LinkedIn post. You
And
can.
the good
Because this was harder.
thing to do is something I call is a smile file. When you do something like that, so like with Cindy, write it down somewhere or keep it in a file somewhere. So when you have got self-doubt come in, you can go
Yeah.
back and look at that file and think, well, I did that and I didn't implode. I did that and I'm still alive to tell the tale. Yes, I can do it. So you can build up the evidence on yourself to realize actually those thoughts that are coming up aren't true anymore. Yes, they may have been when I was 6 or 7, but now I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s or whatever. They're not true anymore.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyway, thank you very much for all of your time. Thank you, everyone, for all your comments as well. And this has been a fantastic session. And I'm realizing that content like this, I think, is needed even more than the how to hack the algorithm or stuff like that. Because if we don't fix ourselves, nothing else matters. So,
You don't do the work,
yeah.
you haven't got good foundation to build everything else on. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, anyway, thank you so much. And everyone, enjoy the rest of your day and Happy New Year. Bye.
Happy New Year's. Thank you.